let's talk power rankings now. We again are going to do our top 10. That's always going to be what we do on the show. If you want the full power rankings, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at @the_square pod. You can find it there, and we will have that whole the whole rankings up there, both my list and Curtis Ford's list as well. But let's start 10 down and go from there.
10 down?
Yeah. Okay. I'll start. I have at number 10. I had to put him back in there. I think I dropped him too far a couple of weeks ago. LA Chargers. They are my number 10 team. I just had to do it. I don't have any reason to not have them there.
Mm-hmm.
The team is just, it looks like it's getting better. Their defense has already been a solid top 15 defense in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas their offense has needed to catch up. Justin Herbert in preseason and through training camp has looked fantastic. Keenan Allen, he's going to have what I believe a massive year this year. I think that extra rapport that he does now have with Justin Herbert is going to blossom that. They've bolstered their offensive line to protect Justin Herbert a bit more. Cincinnati, listen, protect your asset. I think the Chargers, they have a team that LA should be proud of watching this year. Who do you have at 10?
I have the guys across the bay, San Francisco. Right at number 10. Yes, they had a year off, and now, that's really affected me big time in my.
Yeah.
Because, they had massive injuries. I just don't have. I'm not. I find it hard to just feel that they're just going to bounce back and just be that team again, simply because they came out of nowhere to be that team in the first place. So I'm just like, they haven't put 2 seasons together. Therefore, I don't actually know. It seems like they should be their team, and I understand it was but take all the injuries and so on. I'm like, yeah, but I'm also gotta factor in the NFC West too. It's just, man, they're at 10. I'm like, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, but it's just one of those. They're 10, and we're just holding. We're gonna see what happens in the first few weeks, and then go from there. But I like the fact that everyone's coming back. They kind of retooled their offense. There's some of the offensive weapons with the receivers, and as well as definitely with the running back carousel that they're running. Yeah. Drafting Trey Sermon, bringing over. We waiting for was it Jeff Wilson Jr. or what is his first name?
I can't remember.
With Wilson Jr., still nursing the injury, but he's supposed to be back. And now they just buzz about Mostert is supposed to be the starting running back again. I'm like, yeah, I only had a 1-year window. I'm like, dude, I miss me. But then Brandon Ayuk. You got this wild card in Deebo Samuels. They do got the veteran Mohamed Sanu over there as a third wide receiver. They got some nice weapons. Of course, we got the Trey Lance. You got Garoppolo and.
Do you think they're going to
George
do the
Kittle
2 QB system?
I don't. I can see them possibly doing some kind of quasi Mike Shanahan's version of the Taysom Hill, Drew Brees type of thing, but not necessarily in a Wildcat. But could be what they can masquerade a little bit with that.
They tried it in the week 2 of the preseason, or was that week 3? They came out there, they back and forth in the middle of drives. They were switching quarterbacks, and I
think that's a good time to do it. It's in the preseason, but I think that I don't. If anything, maybe it's a smokescreen just to throw teams off. Like they don't know what to expect. But I find it interesting. I like it. I like it if it works. That's what I'm saying.
Everybody does.
But my point being is, why I understand quarterback position, but I was never a component or I was never an opponent of this whole, the quarterback should get every single rep no matter what. Like, why? Why shouldn't the backup get get 10% or 20% of the
Wide receivers don't always get 100% of the reps. Running backs don't always get
exactly,
100%.
but
Offensive line doesn't.
no position
Middle
besides the
linebacker,
quarterback.
outside linebacker, safety, corner. There's no other position that has. I mean, even if it's just one dude, running back, there is no position where
Mm-hmm.
it is just that guy getting the reps. So why not? And especially if you have, I know we always say if you've got two quarterbacks, you got none. But if you got guys in a way where you have two quarterbacks where you don't have to have the rest of your offense change their play style to play with either one of them,
Mm-hmm.
what's the harm?
I don't know. I think it could be done, but I don't know. I
You-
don't want to go.
I
too
do
deep
agree.
into that.
There is somebody, I think it was on Mad Dog Sports, Sirius XM radio talking about it. He was saying that you do have to have 100% of your roster buy-in, which I agree with.
Right.
But if you've got one dissenter on your on your team, you're gonna have problems. And
Right.
like I said, I agree with that sentiment. But to tell me that two quarterback system won't work in the NFL, everything else has worked. Everything else has adapted in the NFL. We at one point never threw the ball forward past the line. Now it's the hallmark of the game.
Right.
Like there is a place for it. If we allow it to happen. So that's where I'm at with it. I'm tired of these old heads coming in here and saying, no, it's never possible going to ever work in the NFL. Well, if you would get the hell out of the way, maybe it would. But you won't allow us to try, so we'll never know.
Right.
That was my only thought on that. I do have San Francisco at 9. They are move them up a little bit, just one spot. I have a little bit more faith. I have a more optimistic view on San Francisco. I know, like you said, they are a year removed from being in the playoffs. They had a horrific COVID year last year. Injuries and COVID got them.
They couldn't have been further on the spectrums and from year to year. And I'm like, okay, what am I left with here? You know?
And I totally get that thought process. But to me, I'm not eliminating the COVID year. I'm just taking what I can from the COVID year. That if you take away just that insanity, you have a year where this team just got absolutely railroaded with injuries.
Mhm.
And you could see before their Super Bowl run a few years ago, the pieces being there. So they now have that Super Bowl year where they have everything come together, close to winning it, just to pass away from that working, and it just so happened they missed that one pass to Emmanuel Sanders. And then you come into last year, COVID year, and everybody's injured. Nobody's healthy. Everybody gets COVID. You get again. They didn't play at home for half the season,
Right.
so I guess for another quarter of the season, because obviously 8 games you're not at home. But and it's neither here nor there. They were displaced from their home stadium, and they had to play in Arizona for their home games. Like they across the board, nobody else had to deal with as much. Maybe Tennessee had the only comparable type of a season, but I don't think anybody else in the NFL had anywhere close to what San Francisco had to deal with last year.
No, not at all.
And I do truly believe with those guys coming back on the defensive end of the ball, with a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, with the weapons that they have, they're going to have their running backs go down, but that's just what San Francisco is. They don't have healthy running backs. It's fine. We'll see if Trey Sermon can break that mold. But I believe in Kyle Shanahan anyway to be able to get over that and still have one of the best running games in the NFL.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, and I'm not against it. Again, I'm just kind of in the dark with this team. I don't know who y'all really are. I do believe they're going to be competitive, but faced with the rest of the NFC, faced with their division, it just
they only have to. They don't even have to win their division to make the playoffs. Like you don't have 3 teams to worry about in the NFC East. Like that's just half of those guys are eliminated. I'm the only other team in the NFC South you really have to worry about, in my opinion, is Carolina.
Right.
They're the only team that I think could possibly make the playoffs. I'm kind of out on New Orleans as it stands right now.
No,
And
I'm not
we all
seriously
know my
considering
feelings
it.
on Atlanta. Um, and then in the NFC North, you that would be the only other team where you have the question of Chicago and Minnesota, as those are you're going to be the other teams that you're competing with. So you've got 5 teams competing for 3 spots. I think San Francisco could come out on that
Well,
on the upper end of that.
and it's fair. And granted, we're talking about top 10 here, but yeah.
Exactly. Who do you have at 9?
Seattle.
I had to drop Seattle. I
I didn't
couldn't.
drop them. I left them right
I
there
know
at
you.
9.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't do any. I mean, nothing in the off season beyond the last time we updated our rankings changed and made me want to move, or nothing changed in me. Like, since we're right here at the doorstep.
But that's the thing. Nothing, because they had another opportunity to go get more offensive line help. I mean, Chicago went out and did it and got Jason Peters.
True.
If Chicago got it done, how the hell did Seattle not get it done?
It just makes for this whole dark horse of making Russell Wilson the MVP this year.
That's why I don't think he will, because
See the
Pete
connection?
Carroll won't help.
I mean,
He is not helping.
He's
He's
gonna show-
already
he's
doing
gonna show
everything that
those
he can to
dynamics.
not let it happen.
True. But he's going to ascend beyond that. And that's what's.
I mean, if he does, again, just like your take earlier, he deserves it.
That's all he's deserving. He ain't gonna get the votes, but I
Yeah.
know that. I know I'm trying to make a case here for talking, beating a dead horse here. But yeah, it's just, again, until I see something different, and I'm giving a lot of respect to this division. It's just like, man, they're powerhouses and by their own rights.
I mean,
Yeah,
granted, I have them at
Seattle has
11.
a lot
So
of issues. Don't get me wrong; they have a lot of issues. They have Russell Wilson, and he rights all the wrongs over there.
That's why I have him
again.
on the doorstep of cracking the top 10 at 11. But with Pete Carroll's lack of willingness to get out of his own freaking way, they drop down out of the top 10 for me for that alone. I think Russell Wilson, and my respect for him, puts that team already so high. Just the fact that Pete Carroll is the head coach, I can't get with it. Who do you have at 8?
Dropped one spot, but Tennessee.
All right, I got the LA Rams at 8. So give me your case for Tennessee.
Well, you already got the emergence. I'm completely sold on Ryan Tannehill. I think he has made that turn. He is a bona fide, good, decent, stable quarterback. Nice game manager with an arm. I think he's a nice little tactician. Now they're starting to finally get some buzz over there. They're starting, by drafting AJ Brown a year or two ago, and now, making a big trade for Julio Jones. Of course, we got Derrick Henry down and solidified in the middle. They have a very nice offensive line. They have bolstered up that defense. And I just think they are a balanced team. And they have been knocking on this freaking door for 3 seasons. And they started to add pieces as opposed to just, let's just see if this regime can just get us through it. And they didn't do that. They added to it where, like I said before, I think they can sustain competitiveness in the AFC. And starting to push for that Super Bowl contender. Is it this year? That's where I'm on the fence for. I'm not sure if it's this year or maybe they make the turn next year or make that push next year. But if anything, I would think they would want to be all in this year to try to do the best they can. If nothing else, not to lose as badly as they have been losing in the playoffs. But for every upset that they pulled off, they got upset year in and year out. So it's just kind of like trying to right those wrongs for themselves. But man, it's just to me, I know I moved them down one spot, but I don't think they're trending down. I just shifted a spot for right now because right now I think they are a very solid playoff contender and a dark horse Super Bowl contender.
See, that's the thing to me. I don't know if they're in my Super Bowl AFC bubble right now. They're obviously in the playoffs to me. I think that they're, from their standpoint. I mean, granted, I have them a spot higher at 7.
Yeah, go
But
ahead, make a case.
they just think that there's so many other AFC teams competing
Mm-hmm.
for that Super Bowl bubble that I don't see them beating those other teams. And we'll get to those guys in a minute. But at 8 for me, I have the Rams, and this is a team I'm holding them here as it stands right now. I dropped them in my last preseason power rankings 2 spots, but I'm holding them here at 8 for right now. Like you were saying earlier, I just need to see Matthew Stafford first in this offense to put them up where I want to put them. But this team here is, man, they are good, and everything on paper shows me that this is going to be the team that's competing with Tampa Bay to win the NFC.
Hmm.
But again, I just have to see Matthew Stafford in this offense first, and then I can make that final determination to give me cause for moving them where I want to move them. But as it stands right now, LA Rams, they're my adopted team of the year when it comes to the NFC anyway. So I like the Rams. I like everything that they're doing defensively, offensively. Unfortunately, they're gonna have to break my hearts week 1 and play the Chicago Bears. But I think this team is just that good. Sean McVay at the helm. He's been a dude that he's shown me what, like, as a young stud head coach,
Mm-hmm.
just coming in and absolutely wrecking the league. He does not care how what he does affects the tradition of the game. He just is like, no, this is the new way to play football, and let's go put up as many points as we freaking possibly can. And now I finally have a quarterback that can actually lead my offense. So I'm excited to see what this team can do with the weapons that they have. I would have definitely been way more excited if we had Cam Akers on this team this year, but unfortunately he's out due to a ACL tear.
I think it's ACL.
Yeah, so won't be seeing Cam Akers, but they do have Henderson over there, or Henderson. So I mean, they still have a running game that's going to be fun to watch. Sony Michel,
and he was the starter last year.
Technically, yes. So yeah, I do think that they still have a stud offense regardless. I don't think Cam Akers is going to make or break this offense. It just would be nice to have that extra level of dimension to see everything that Sean McVay would have at his disposal. So that's what I have at 8. Like I said, at 7, I already have Tennessee there. Everything that you're saying, I'm on board with. I'm not, and I dropped them down again a spot from.
We swapped spots,
yeah,
for different reasons, which is interesting. But yeah, I have 10, and I have the Rams at 7. So
okay, so Tennessee though, I just wanted to mention I agree with you in the premise that this is a sleeper team. I don't think that they're a sleeper for the Super Bowl, just being with the conference that they're in.
The dark horse Super Bowl contender, not champ.
To me, this is a team that they're not an easy out when it comes to playing them at any point in the season, but definitely not in the playoffs. Mike Vrabel, it might be my favorite head coach out of anybody in the league. He is he's a gritty dude. Like, I just like the way that he coaches and the way that he has the way that he goes about coaching up his team. It's you don't see it out of all these head coaches. A lot of these head coaches are trying to be friends. He's coming in there. I respect you. I'm the leader here, though. Let's get this done. And everybody is kind of falling in line. He looks like to me, he's like a more mature Dan Campbell.
Okay.
So more gritty. He's kind of goofy, but obviously it works. So don't have that same take on Tannehill that you do, but I do believe in the rest of this offense. This is going to be Tannehill's prove it year to me.
Oh my gosh, takes. I mean, you just ignored all of what he's did the last several years. That's interesting.
He's had 2 good years with Tennessee as it stands so far.
And how many bad ones?
Tennessee so far though, they don't get it done in the playoffs, and that's my question: is Tannehill a guy that can win playoff games?
Well, again, didn't have many weapons. Second thing, their defense was always suspect for quite some time. It just the team is finally put. That's why I started. So I'm talking about both sides of the ball. They building something over there in Tennessee finally, and
they've got, like you said, they've got the weapons this year. So Ryan Tannehill, go do your thing. You'll prove me wrong, but I do think I like him. I'm not saying that he's the worst quarterback in the league or anything like that. I think he's definitely a starting quarterback in this league. I don't think that he's if you want to say top 10 quarterback or anything like that. I think he's just going to come in. He's going to do his thing. He's not going to F it up, and that's fine. And that's going to get them winning games.
Not a top 10 quarterback. Wow. Okay.
I'm notating that today. Stop. I have not ranked the quarterback, so I would have to go through and look at it. But
all right, I'm gonna let you go just on that, but I'm not gonna forget what you said. Not a top 10 quarterback. Got it.
2.
All right, got note to myself.
4,
I'm coming
5,
back to this one day. I will circle the
6,
right. No, don't do it
7,
now.
8.
No, not now. Let's move on.
No, put it on. Write it down. He's not a top 10 quarterback.
Okay.
And we'll come back to this in the middle of the season.
We will.
Not a top. I'm looking at the MVP odds as it stands right now, and I agree. He's not top 10.
MVP odds. He don't have to be.
I'm not even looking at their odds. I'm just where the quarterbacks are listed right now. But hey, I'm just looking at the quarterbacks that are listed above him, and I agree.
This is a top 10 list. It's subjective. It is what it is. I get it. I'm just saying
I don't think you would disagree with me on the guys that I would put above him.
Okay.
But that's a different. Let's get back to the power ranking. All right. Number
baited me into that.
Number 6. Who you have? Number 6.
Shockingly, there's been a shakeup here.
Is it?
Baltimore.
Ooh, whoa!
I told you.
Okay, please do tell.
Yes, I knocked them down from the fourth spot down to the 6th spot, but it speaks to another team. I don't want to go ahead of them.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
okay.
But I think there's a change in the guards in the NFC North. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
all right. Well, then I'll talk about my number 6 team, Green Bay. I moved them back up a spot based off of. I
don't know why I just left them. I left them at 5 only because they're in the NFC.
I know you left. Yeah, you left them. You never touched them. I dropped them a little while ago, and I've been slowly moving them back up. Mm-hmm. I'm not sold on what everybody else is seeing with Green Bay being the next team. I know they've been in the NFC Championship the last 2 years, but last 2 years they've gotten absolutely trounced in the NFC Championship games. And it's been their own fault why they are not winning those games. So right. They haven't addressed those concerns in my book. I don't think Zaven Collins solves everything for them in that respect. So I want to be a hater. Again, this team is at number 6 to me, so obviously they're good. But as a Bears fan, I want to drop them out of the top 10, put them back in the 20s. But I can't do that until Aaron Rodgers leaves. So this roster to me, as they got Aaron Jones, they've got Devontae Adams. They're adding Devin Funchess, who they signed last year but opted out due to COVID. They got back Randall Cobb now, which I don't think is actually as big of a deal as a lot of people are trying to make it out to be. So I mean they're building around on the offense, but defensively you still have inefficiencies there, and I know they try to address it with Eric Stokes on the defensive backside, and how much does Adrian Amos still have left is kind of a question. Is he going to be able to keep up? I think Jair Alexander, he's if not number 1, number 2 cornerback in the league to me. I think he's a criminally underrated corner in this game. That dude is going to literally eliminate half the field every single time he steps out there. So let's keep that in mind. But linebacker wise, they're not stopping the run. They're just not. They've only in their front seven. You got the Smith brothers trying to step in there and stop the run, and you've got Kenny Clark up front. The other 5 spots, they're gonna get absolutely demolished in those spots against the run game anyway. So to me, I don't see it. Plus, you lost offensive line talent, so I just to me, I don't know how I'm going to propel them into the conversation of Super Bowl contender. But outside of the fact that they're in a kind of right now a transitioning NFC. I think the NFC is in a position right now where there's got a lot of teams that are still need just a little bit more fine tuning to become contenders. So there is that argument, but to me, they're 3 in the NFC. It's just a matter of, again, I got to see the Rams. So
right.
That's it. I don't have too much. I can't propel them into the top 5, being that I don't see them as a true Super Bowl contender right now.
Interesting. I mean, I'm not hung up on the Rams thing. I mean, I think we have very similar takes, but it did not factor into my power rankings a little differently. Where it's like I can't move them into the top 5 till I know what the heck. Which is also why I have them at 8. Done, yeah. But I don't have any other teams. You know, it would be like just a vacant spot at 5. You know,
which honestly I could have done.
which would knock San Francisco out of the top 10, and they will be like, you know, it just.
I get you.
Which, by the way, the Chargers I have at 11, so they're right outside of it. But for the very reason of what you said, is just why they just stuck at 5. You know, it's like I put Baltimore under them based on conference. That's it. It has nothing to do with anything else. I mean, there really could be 5A, 5B right now. You know, I think Green Bay and Baltimore are like right there. But I see Baltimore trending from an offensive standpoint. I see them trending down. There's
agreed some
issues going on.
I see the whole team trending down.
You know, I think
outside of the quarterbacks, I do like Lamar Jackson. I
do too, but I don't know what they're gonna do with this guy. Like, I don't know if they like what. My question is this: what is this guy's identity like with this team? Like, is it just to go out there and do whatever, or is he gonna be a pocket passer? Or is he gonna? And I've seen certain games where he just looked like he wasn't sure, and I'm like, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
Did it to Michael Vick, and it was like, you know, players like that, you just gotta let them play. You cannot sit there and try to harness that and then unleash it.
I don't think they are. I think that they haven't. To me, the issue is they don't have the weapons to throw to.
That's the other thing.
So that's why they can't allow him to do everything that they want, because defenses are looking at him like, okay, that's the only guy we got to stop. We don't have to worry about Sammy Watkins because it's Sammy freaking Watkins. He's a number 3 to me at this point, 2 at best. And that's on the very best day. He has to have an MVP game.
He's not a 2 at all.
I'm
done.
He's a 3.
At best.
I'm
sorry, I'm not. No.
Hollywood Brown, to me he is a bona fide 2. He's a slot wide receiver. He is not the guy to go to. And I have all the hope in the world for Rashad Bateman. I love this kid. I think he's got so much upside, so much potential. But if he's your best receiver and has the most upside of it, he needs some time. I will say, I watched him in Minnesota. He's a raw prospect. But I see the potential that he has, which is why I like him on any team. Because if he can sit there and he can play and he can find his way in different spots as the season goes on and learn and continue to grow in that role, perfect. That is exactly what you need. But you cannot have him be your workhorse wide receiver or your number 1 target at any point, because he just is not there yet.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with it. I do have them higher based off of, I can't drop them until I see Cleveland beat them, which I know you like you said, you have a changing of the guard there, and I do too. I have Cleveland as a sneaky, not sneaky. I think that they should be the favorites to win this division.
I think they're just gonna write. I think it's gonna be it's gonna be rough.
Yeah.
This is
They've got
one
a
of the
tough
most
schedule.
competitive.
Baltimore's got a tough
Right,
schedule.
it's one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL. But I think at the end of the day or the end of the season, I think Cleveland is just they're gonna just rip this thing out of their hand. Like, we're taking this division.
I got Cleveland at 5, and I got Baltimore at 4. So they're right there. They're 4A, 4B to me. It's just a matter of I got to see Cleveland in a game versus Baltimore first before I flip it.
I don't know. I just got Green Bay splitting them, but they both flopped. They flipped. I just went from 6-4, 4-6, and
I got you.
Again, Green Bay.
Well, I think we have a consensus at top 3 then.
Just basically.
Let's go to that then, because I think we've exhausted the whole conversation on Cleveland and Baltimore. We've talked about them enough.
Exactly.
Buffalo at 3, agreed?
Absolutely.
All right. That is a team that is totally ascending. I love everything about Buffalo. The only thing to me is that I think people are going to look at Buffalo's end of season record, which I think is going to be worse than last year, and think that the team got worse, which I don't think is the case. I think the AFC got better as a whole, but I still think Buffalo is the second best team in this conference, and they have outside of I don't believe that. Buffalo has a super complete team. They have one of the most complete teams. I mean, Kansas City, obviously, we've talked about this enough. Their DBs are the only hole that they have. Cleveland has, I think, the consensus complete roster. I think Buffalo is right there because I think the only thing Buffalo doesn't have is the running backs. And to me, running backs just don't mean that much in the NFL anymore, if that's the case. Because, I mean, and that's just saying based off of the fact that Devin Singletary and Zach Moss have not been able to stay healthy their entire careers.
Right.
Whereas if they are able to, if one of them can just make it to the end of the year, this team is just going to be one of the most difficult teams to stop because they've got a pretty solid offensive line. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now and a young, hot, budding talent in Josh Allen. You've got weapons, Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley. Well, that's just their offense. Defensively, Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White. They addressed the pass rushers in the draft. It's just across the board. This team is just stacked, and I just don't see how getting pass rushers is going to make this team worse.
Right.
Like that was their only issues. Now they can actually try to get out after Patrick Mahomes, put a little bit more pressure on him. That's not going to be a cakewalk for Kansas City. It's not going to be a cakewalk for Baltimore. It's not going to be a cakewalk for Cleveland, for Tennessee, for the Chargers, Indianapolis, Miami, New England, across all the way down. Anybody in the NFC, if you're looking at Buffalo, that's a team that you're saying, crap, I wish we did not have them this week. Like, just any week of the season. This team is tough.
They are, and scary, dangerous. And I keep saying that. I'm like, man, I don't like this team. I like them, but I don't like this team and I'm saying the same thing when I look at Cleveland. I'm like, I like this. I don't like this team because Buffalo and Cleveland are coming.
Yeah.
And Tennessee is a little ways behind, but they are coming. And Kansas City, I think they did address everything you just said. They addressed the one issue that they had, and I keep reiterating the one issue. Well, the one major one.
Yeah, the DBs are able to be covered up, whereas their offensive line,
and they do need to fix that though. Really,
yeah, that's my thing. Like that, because that's the only thing that I can see a team saying. Again, Buffalo can specifically exploit that based off of you've got a deep threat wide receiver in Stephon Diggs. You've got a slot guy in Emmanuel Sanders. A little bit slower, but still, it's Emmanuel freaking Sanders. He's still a great wide receiver. You've got a speedy slot guy. Might not be there every week because he's not vaccinated, but Cole Beasley.
Title.
Oh, true. Yeah. And then you've got a guy with the arm of all arms. He looks like a mini Brett Favre out there in Josh Allen.
Exactly.
So he can get the ball at any point in any spot in the field. I do have a little bit of reservations with, because he is too much like Brett Favre in the way that he just tries to zip it in there all the time. Whereas he doesn't have any finesse with it sometimes, and that kind of gets him messed up. So I would like to see that change in his game. But if we're going to be nitpicking there, like, this team is insane.
Right. Right. Brett Favre never made it look pretty. And no one ever cared. It's just, if they caught the ball, great.
That's that Alabama in them. Yeah, it's not pretty, but they get the job done.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I don't have any much more to go behind Buffalo. I'm like, we're on the same page with this. I mean, Buffalo. Gosh.
All right, Tampa Bay I have at 2. I'm pretty sure. Do you still have Kansas City sitting at 2?
Until they play a game. Okay. I know you thought I was gonna move it. I thought about it. I was like, nope, I'm gonna stake to my guns. I said, not until they play after week 1.
We'll see them tomorrow.
They're in play as of tomorrow. Yeah. And then that's when it begins. And like, now if they let Dallas come in there and beat them, oh my God.
Not even if Dallas beats them. If they don't blow them out, if this is not a cakewalk of a game for Tampa Bay, I'm going to be disappointed. And it'll go to what I've been saying all year. I don't think just running it back is what's going to solve and get them to repeat as champions. And I know everybody wants that to be the case, but
this is opening week power rankings. I'm like,
I know, and that's why I left them. But I've had them at number 2. Yeah, I left them at 2 the whole time. I've never moved.
Which is why I left them at 1. Just that I don't like. The reason why I'm putting them at 1 sucks, but it's just like, I just giving them respect of someone had to win the game, and they're the champions. So I'm gonna give you your flowers right now. But that's it. After tomorrow, I'm done. Yeah. After that point, all right, I'm taking the pen. I'm just back to pencil.
I have more respect for the offseason and what Kansas City did this offseason, and going out there and saying, nope, we're not just going to try to run it back. We're not just going to try to get healthy. We're going to address the issue.
Kansas City is so good, it doesn't matter what the power ranking is. They like 2, 1, 7, 27. I just don't care. We're gonna go out and do what we do. And I know this. It's just for the sake of the exercise here. I'm just I'll be fair for now. But I mean, let's be real. We know who the real team is, who the real number 1 is.
I think they're hands down number 1, Kansas City. They've got the roster, they've got the team. They've done everything that they can to make sure that they are. They don't have the same issues that they did last year. So right. I gave more respect to what they did in the offseason as compared to which I will say is unprecedented what Tampa Bay did this offseason and returning all 22 starters. I have to say that with that caveat, yes, that is insane. That's a great feat. Awesome. But I don't think that was going to win you the Super Bowl. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.